What are the top things you need to get or do by February 2025 to avoid the price increases? Take a listen to find out. Hi, it's the Urban Lady Prepper. Here are the top things you need to get or do by February 2025 to avoid the price increases. My last two podcasts, Saddling Up for a Wild 2025, How to Get Ready Right Now, and The Prepper Christmas Shopping List, What to Ask For and What to Give, focused on what steps to take to be ready for the upcoming year and to close it out with some practical gift giving for the preppers out there that will be helpful in 2025. I followed it up with a reel that listed items you needed to get or do before February 2025. The feedback has been mixed, as there are those unaware how they would be affected by the upcoming tariffs and deportations, and there were items mentioned that are not imported. For this reason, I figured it might be a good idea to do a podcast focusing on the items that I've mentioned and also bring up other things that may be affected as well. I will get as specific as possible so it's clearer what you need to purchase and do prior to the next administration taking office in late January. Unless you've tuned out from the negativity, or you're part of the 90 million people who didn't vote at all this year, and shame on you, yeah, I said it, you may not be fully aware of what is coming down the pike. In a nutshell, the incoming administration has already, before they've even taken office, advised that they're going to impose 25% tariffs on our closest trading partners, Canada and Mexico. Also, up to 100% tariffs on goods from China, and various percentages of tariffs on other countries we do business with. There are some folks who are still unclear about how tariffs actually work. So very quickly, the tariff is a fee that is placed on a company that is importing goods from another country. For example, if you're someone who purchases goods from China and say the U.S. imposed a 50% tariffs on goods imported from there, naturally, China is going to raise the prices of the goods you're buying to offset that new tariff. So you, as the importer, are paying that additional cost. And of course, you're not going to eat that difference. You're going to pass it on to your customers. So at the end of the day, the tariff isn't punishing the exporting country. It's punishing the people who are purchasing from that country and ultimately the consumers. While it seems like a good way to make consumers buy American, understand that there are certain things that we currently do not or cannot make. Or it's a food item we don't or can't grow. There's also the expense. American-made products, while we can appreciate the quality and supporting American labor, U.S. manufactured goods are more expensive due to the materials used and the labor costs involved. With folks financially struggling as it is, the extra few dollars here and there to buy more expensive items, regardless of where it's from, is simply not on the table. For American companies to make up the difference between what another country has been providing or start manufacturing from scratch will take years to implement and integrate into the economy. Food is the biggest topic these days. In my article, 2025 and Beyond, Your Guide to Survival with Grit and Grace, I explain exactly why food is so expensive. And again, it's something that the president does not control. It starts with extreme weather conditions, which impacts crop yields. This increases prices for pantry staples like grains and vegetables. While we do grow a lot of that here, we do import a lot of it as well. Having that mix of providers keeps prices at a certain level, and once we lose any of that volume, that increases the prices as the demand hasn't changed. Also, there are supply chain issues, which are worsened by global events and labor shortages that cause delays and increased transportation costs, which inflates food prices. Further, even though the earth is providing less resources, we continue to make babies. So there's a rising global demand for food driven by this population growth. It exerts pressure on available resources, which also affects pricing. Americans must understand that the job of growing and harvesting crops is a job we generally don't want to do. The migrants that certain factions complain about are not taking jobs from anyone. Those are jobs nobody wants. With those folks gone, that means more crops will go to waste, which restricts availability, reduces providers, and increases prices. I did recommend that folks stockpile canned goods. I think it's a good idea to do it now before this panic buying. While a lot of the canned stuff is domestically processed, the demand for it will grow as folks will turn to canned items when they can no longer afford or find what they want fresh. If you take advantage of any BOGOs or 10 for 10s, you'll be ahead of the game in case there's any shortages. Some examples of imported food would be bananas, lemons, limes, avocados, green onions, coffee, and sugar. Again, we do import more grain than you think we do, so if you have your favorites, you may want to try and have some extra. Also, we do import a lot of cooking oils from other places, but even if they're not affected by the tariffs, they are affected by war. So if you're able to get extra, it may be a good idea to do so. We do grow a fair amount of rice in America, so rice may not be hit as hard as other starches. However, you may want to store extra, just in case the supply that we have and the demand causes rice to become more expensive or scarce as well. Other items that would be impacted by tariffs would be non-food items, such as solar panels and building materials. We import a lot of lumber from Canada and other building materials from around the world. If you have a major home project that you're looking to do, such as an addition, renovations, etc., that would also cost more as the components are going to have added costs due to the tariffs and availability. China and other countries supply a lot of electronics and toys. In fact, a lot of our electronics aren't built here. As a result of any tariffs, these items are going to become more expensive as, again, the countries are going to raise their prices to offset the new tariffs imposed on them. Therefore, that video game console, that cell phone, that laptop is going to cost a lot more next year because of this. Other items we import would be shoes and clothing. We import a lot of clothing from around the world, and the tariffs will greatly affect their cost. Whether or not this will make Americans buy more domestic clothing remains to be seen, but know that smaller companies purchase materials from other countries even if they're ultimately made in America. Furniture is another example of a big-ticket item that will become more expensive because we import a lot of furniture or the material to make it. So if you're looking to buy new furniture, I would recommend that you get it before February. Another thing I listed in my reel was paper goods such as toilet paper and paper towels. Some of you are aware that these items are actually made here. I know that, and you may know that, but there are many people out there who do not. And just like in 2020, when there was that huge toilet paper run, their ignorance can also impact people who know better. So I believe it's better to have these items before the store gets bum rushed and you can't get what you need. It's better to have a little bit extra now in case that type of thing happens again. One item that will absolutely go up in cost is coffee. Coffee is something we import from all over the world, and the pricing is going to be greatly impacted. In fact, I've already noticed that coffee prices are creeping up. If you're able to stockpile some coffee, you might want to do that to ride out the next few months. If you were looking into buying a new car and you can't do it before February, you may need to wait a while. If you can swing it, great. But for those of us who can't afford an additional 25% on a new car, which are already overpriced, it's not an option. You may want to take advantage of those end-of-the-year dealership sales when they're trying to offload the prior year's vehicles, as it may be the best deal you can get for a good while. The problem with folks not buying new cars is that they will seek used cars instead. This, of course, will cause the cost of used vehicles to increase because of the demand. So if you decide that you're going to end up with a used car instead of a new one, it may be a good idea to make your decision sooner rather than later, before folks realize just how unaffordable any car is, then crowding the market and forcing you to pay more than you may have planned to. If you have a car that you plan to keep and it needs repairs, I do recommend that you get everything you need done to it now in case the parts you need are imported and will cost more. Other things that are going to be affected and you need to be prepared for is the possible loss of health care. There's a whole other conversation to have about how some people were excited to see Obamacare eliminated, not realizing that it's the same thing as the Affordable Care Act, which a lot of them actually use and need. To gloat over someone losing something as important as health care, while thinking theirs is still attacked and somehow different and justifiable, is gross. But anyway, for those of us who are going to be impacted by this, it's important that you make use of it as much as you can, as soon as you can. If you're having any weird aches or pains, if there's some sort of physical issue you've been putting off, it's my recommendation that you get into your doctor as soon as possible and get whatever treatment you need immediately. Also, you may want to see how much medication you can get in advance in the event your coverage is changed or canceled. This is especially true if you have any lingering issues, chronic conditions, or you need dental work and you're fortunate enough to have dental as part of your plan. Since there's no telling if some or all of the program will be eliminated, it's better to be safe than sorry and get the care while you can, and the coverage is what you originally selected it to be. I again recommend getting a JACE case so you can have some important antibiotics and other medications available in case of emergency. I have a link for you that you can use in the information for this podcast. One thing that I didn't mention in my reel and in the last couple of podcasts was the need for those with children to start looking for alternative means of care and education. There is the threat of the Department of Education being dismantled. We do need to take into account that there are programs that the Department of Education provides that are crucial for parents, especially if their children have special needs. If you or someone you know has a child in an IEP program or other program provided through the public school, these are things that will be eliminated should the DOE be dismantled. You also have to take into account that should public schools be closed, you will have to make arrangements for your child's education and who's going to provide it. If you're a two-income household, you now have to either pay for private school or one parent will have to stay at home, which of course will impact the household income at a time when it would be needed most. So now's the time to check your resources, check your alternative plans, and at least have something in place should this happen. Even if the DOE is not dismantled, there may be changes in the immunization requirements, and some vaccines may no longer be available. Then you may have to make the decision whether or not you want your child to attend a school where they can catch a disease we eliminated decades ago, and then try to treat them in an environment where more people are getting sick, less people have coverage, and there may be shortages in medications. Another recommendation I would make, if at all possible, is to eliminate as much debt as you can. A lot of consumer protections are threatened to be removed, and there's no promise that interest rates will go down. If any of the previously mentioned situations causes your expenses to increase, that means that there will be even less money you can put towards your debts. Along with interest, that means that you may never get even, much less ahead. Trim the fat out of your budget, sell what you don't use or need, or donate them so you can write them off with your taxes. Waiting until all of this economically hits the fan may make your choices a lot more limited and expensive. Be proactive and get ahead of what's coming. While it's going to be tough, it's going to be tougher for those who stuck their head in the sand or convinced themselves that it won't be that bad. In a nutshell, those are the things you need to get or do by February 2025. Canned goods, toys, using your medical benefits, electronics like cell phones, gaming systems, and laptops, paper goods like toilet paper and paper towels, coffee, shoes, solar panels, building materials, especially lumber, a new car and furniture, and get out of debt if you can. I hope you found the above information useful and will be able to get all your ducks in a row so you're ready to ride out whatever happens next. Thanks for listening. Be safe out there. Until next time, this is the Urban Lady Prepper signing off. I hope that I've given you some things to think about as you go through the upcoming week. I upload a new podcast every Sunday. Visit my website, urbanladyprepper.com, where I post a new article every Wednesday and Friday. While there, sign up for my weekly newsletter, which contains information that usually isn't on the podcast or website. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and show your support with a donation or buy some Urban Lady Prepper gear. It helps me continue to grow and provide even more content. Join me on the socials. I look forward to hearing from you. Stay safe, stay sharp, and be ready.